for a second?
Let's talk about porn.
Okay, because it's really awful, and unfortunately it does us a great disservice, because if you go in the genre of porn, I'm going to use a word that nobody should really use, but I need to for the sake of making a point, which is you have the shemale genre. And it really pays trans women an awful disservice because of the fact that literally you have the gay porn, the straight porn, and the shemale porn as a genre, which is like, just in itself it's awful, because it's like, we have a gender, thank you very much. But then also the fact that these are not representatives of the trans experience.
Right.
The things that you see there are not representative of the trans experience. Just like in the 70s, in the 60s, you would see black actors playing pimps and playing thieves and playing drug dealers, because that's the only work they would get. And the alternative was to starve as an actor. In the same way, you have these women who are getting paid, whatever, between $500 and $1,000 a shoot to act in the way that cisgender men are telling them to act, which has nothing to do with their innate sexuality. And then you get that portrayed in the movie for the male gaze, and then people assume that that's the way trans women act in bed, and that's not how we act in bed.
Right.
It's almost revolting. To what extent it's inaccurate.
Right, and the thing about it is the way that it's fetishized, right?
Yeah.
And something to point out is that it is fetishized, right? It is this fetishes happen when we have this like unhealthy, unnatural obsession with something, as opposed to a natural sexual desire for something.
Yeah, definitely. And
so we've fetishized, what is it called? Shemale?
Yeah.
Shemen? Yeah.
Also,
highly fetishized.
Yes, they really are. And I don't quite know. There is unfortunately this particular demographic, which as a trans woman I get all the time, and it's
probably exhausting.
Which is a chaser, somebody that's specifically looking for that fetish.
Yeah.
And no, thank you. I want to be recognized as a human, I want to be recognized as a woman.
Right.
The thing that these people are finding the most fascinating is the thing about my anatomy that I have the most problematic relationship with, and the last thing that I won't focus on. So it gets...
Isn't that fascinating? And I, as my job as a therapist, is to try to help these clients who are fetishizing someone like Cassie into accepting their sexuality, because someone like Cassie is actually a normal thing in the world, right? And so they've got a fetish because they feel shame about their sexuality. They feel shame about their desire.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't know how much time we have, but I recently had a great conversation with an acquaintance of mine who hit me up on Facebook because he and his wife are interested in having an experience with a trans woman. And he approached me really thoughtfully, and he said, how much of this is problematic, how much of this might be offensive, I don't know how to go about it. We had a really good conversation. An example I used with my son, as I was trying to teach him about the problems with fetishizing, the problem with objectifying, is, imagine that a friend of yours who you love and care about has gotten the new Nintendo console. Well, that's great, because you really want to play Nintendo. You go over, you have a great time.
Yeah.
That's great. Now suppose it's somebody that, it's an acquaintance from school, they have the new Nintendo console. That's kind of cool. So you might want to, at some point, be at their house, play Nintendo. What if it's somebody that you could give two damns about? You really could care if they live or die, but they have the Nintendo console. And now you're just looking for the angle to get into their house to use them. See how it gets increasingly problematic? So if somebody wants to spend time with me, just because of the fact that I happen to be a woman with a certain anatomy that you like, but you could care less about my experience or my feelings or me, that's really problematic. And also, by the way, I can tell, when I'm with a man and he pays no attention to my breasts, he pays no attention to my ass, he doesn't kiss me, and he focuses on one particular area, it is vomit-inducing to me. It's like, it's so upsetting. I'm not even talking about getting offended, I'm just talking about it's extremely not sexually pleasing.
It's not exciting.
Right, exactly, because what I need is to be recognized.
And you're being objectified.
Yes, exactly. Now, it's okay to objectify somebody in a consensual model. Like, you could go to somebody and you know,
Some
get to know them.
objectification, yeah, is hot.
Yeah, you could say, by the way, I think that the fact that you have really large breasts is really hot because I've always wanted to, but
I've always wanted to,
well, I was thinking to motorboat somebody.
Yes.
But what I was saying is, like, you don't approach a stranger in a bar and you say something like that. I was once sitting in a work lunch with a white American software developer and two Asian American co-workers, and he starts going on and on about how he really is hoping to date an Asian woman because Asian women are so, and he had all these stereotypes just coming to his mouth. You know, they're so submissive and so demure and so this and that. And these two girls were just like looking at me like, who the fuck is this guy? And you could tell the disgust in there. And he was not reading the room at all, and he was just going on and on. When he excused himself to go to the bathroom, they were really thinking like, should we leave? We're trying to find, and you know, and this is a co-worker situation, so we weren't trying to be rude, but they were so uncomfortable, and I was trying to steer the conversation away. He kept bringing it back, completely clueless. So, listen, if it happens to be that you're on a date with somebody, and they have a characteristic which you fetishize, you happen to find yourself on a date with somebody who has, I'm gonna go with the large breasts again, and that's something that you like, well then it's great to exalt that and say, by the way, this is a feature I really like about you. If somebody goes on a couple of dates with me and talks about my writing and talks about the way that I carry myself and talks about my Latina experience and we talk about music and we have these common interests, and then he happens to disclose the fact that he's really curious, he's really interested and really excited about the prospect that I happen to be trans, that would be met in a very different context than if somebody hits me out of the blue, complete stranger, saying, I've always wanted to hook up with a tranny, which has happened, and they have used that derogatory term. And I'm like, well, first of all, out of the gate, don't start with an insult. So there's more that I can say on that, but I also want to stay focused on the representation in the movies. So on that, I just want to say there are some examples of film that are really good, like Crash Pad is a really good example of queer representation. One of the key things is nothing about us without us. If you have trans people having any kind of agency over film, whether it be mainstream or porn, then you have a much more authentic experience.
There needs to be representation, whatever it is, whether it's trans, whether it's a race, whatever it is, there needs to be representation in that particular media.
Exactly.
For it to be accurate.
Yeah, what I find in porn in terms of trans women is that it's generally the action, the dynamic, the way that they comport themselves, or that they're being asked to comport themselves, is very much interchangeable with the way a dude would behave, because of the fact that the girl happens to have a penis. So then she's penetrating a girl, she's mounting a girl the way that a man would do it, which is not what happens when two women are in bed together. That's not the way two lesbians act in bed, regardless of whether or not one of those lesbians has a penis.
Right.
So it's
not realistic.
It's not realistic, and it's a big turn off for us trans women to watch it. But that's what's demanded.
It creates fetishes, but it's demanded because of the lack of visibility.
Yeah.
It's demanded because of the transphobia in our society. It's demanded because they don't have actual representation in real life, so they fantasized about it, and now they have to create that fantasy for the camera. That's what porn has become. So yeah, Crash Pad series is a great example of great queer porn that has actual representation. So look for those types of porn for sure.
Yeah, and question what you see. Just if it satisfies your fantasy, I understand you're trying to get off. More power to you. But just question what you see, because if you watch a lot of straight porn, you will see that women are pandering to the men, and they're pandering to the men because the woman is making $1,000 to $1,500 for that shoot, and the director is also the guy holding the camera, is also the guy getting off.
Well, and getting to the core of why you're attracted to that type of scene is an important thing. Like, you're attracted to something that you fetishized. Why do we fetishize something? Because it's considered taboo in society.
Yeah.
So you can get to a place where your sexuality is normalized, and you don't have to fetishize that. And you can approach Cassie because of, sorry, I just touched your boob. You can approach Cassie because of her writing or you know, common interests that you have, and then express your curiosity in a loving way.
So there are these stereotypes that people have, or these misconceptions. You know, something that I hear a lot is you're the best of both worlds.
Oh, yeah.
And no, I'm not.
Wow. I mean, talk about binary.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And I generally answer, I'm not convertible, you know, that's...
You're not a mullet. Party in the back.
That's a great example.
All business in the front and party in the back. Oh.
But yeah, because no, I'm a woman that comes to sexuality with a very different experience. And you know, Mo and I could do at some point another video which talks about what you could expect of a trans woman in bed. But a great piece of advice, if you ever happen to be in a sexual position with a trans woman, then ask what do you call your parts? How do you refer to your parts?
Mm-hmm.
How do you like to be touched? What are your do's and don'ts? What makes you feel good? What makes you feel
Just
bad?
like in any sexual situation.
Just like in any sexual situation.
Yeah.
But for example, the way that we refer to our parts is very important to us. Most trans women would not want to say that they have a dick. That's very crass and very uncomfortable. So there are different terms that we use to refer to whatever anatomy we have. And there are many trans women who don't have it, who have a vagina. So don't make assumptions is one thing, and don't make assumptions as to what we might or might not want to do in bed with you. So that's an important thing. And so now we're talking about the way you're going to interact sexually with us. If you are in a sexual situation, but don't come to us at a dinner party, at a non-sexual situation, or you know, at a museum gala, and start asking us sexual questions, because that doesn't work with any woman, and it certainly doesn't work with a trans woman.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't work with anyone. Maybe it would work with, I don't know. But
I cannot believe that people would come up to me in a completely, they've just met me, we're both holding hors d'oeuvres at a dinner party, and they will ask me what kind of genitalia I have, and I'm like, okay, Janet, you show me yours.
oh, wow. Do you want to go behind the bleachers and I'll show you mine, you show me yours? Like we're 4 years old again?
You don't go around asking, you know, it's like, excuse me, is your clit hooded? You don't ask those
Right.
questions.
Are you circumcised? Would you like to show me?
Are your labia hanging, or are they pretty streamlined? You know, it's like, that's not a question that comes up over a dinner party for most people.
Right.
So why should it be for me, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, so to wrap up about representation in the movies and in shows, it's getting better. And I really encourage you to look for it and just start recognizing, when is it just the trans women? When do we have a cis person playing a role? When do we have, you know, Scarlett Johansson was going to play a trans man. Luckily, she desisted.
And is it you know, if a cis person is playing the role, is it of the right gender?
Yes.
Right? Because
exactly.
a cis woman playing a trans man is the incorrect gender. They're being misgendered in the role.
Exactly. If you have a cis man playing a trans man, it makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you want the trans man playing a trans man,
yeah.
because there are many talented trans actors out there who deserve recognition.
And that would understand the experience.
And what's the narrative? You know, are they saying that we're all a joke? Are they saying that we're all sex workers? Are they saying, I'm not bagging on sex work. More power to you if you want to do sex work. Unfortunately, many trans women do survival sex work, not of our own choosing, because nobody will freaking hire us.
Yeah, that's true.
So we're not all that kind of stereotype. So I would love to see more and more representation of trans women as just another woman in your environment who happens to have a particular experience, and we need more of that.
Yes.